All right, y'all. Hey, it's Trucking Angel here again with another video that I am hoping will actually help you all be able to pass your pre-trip inspection, as well as to calm your nerves. I've had a couple of people, subscribers, who have stressed that they are pretty worried about whether they would be able to remember everything. And I know, guys, I know it's very intimidating at first, but I have given some helpful tips, I hope, in the comment section. But I got something even better for you guys. As you can see, hopefully I'm doing this correctly, but as you can see, I have the actual study guide in front of you guys, so you won't have to see me at all in this video. I'm gonna just go through and show you different pieces of it, show you what you can do to help you better understand it, and also kind of give you guys, you know, some insiders that I learned once I got out here to Springfield, Missouri. I do not know how it is at the other two locations with Prime, but I do know what we were provided with, and I got some helpful tips and tools to help me navigate through this 10-page document. Please do not be stressed. Do not overthink it. Let's get right into it. All right, so when you get this, Miss D or whoever is probably going to be welcoming you guys, those of you that are coming out here to Springfield, Missouri, I have to keep, you know, reiterating that because there are two other locations with Prime, and this is what we had to study in order to pass in the state of Missouri our CDL test, just for the pre-trip portion. So you can see on this sheet, it shows you on page 1 the engine compartment, and you have all of the things that you're going to be doing with the engine compartment. And the little nice tool that Miss D told us to do was to kind of make notes on certain sections that you're going to be able to see as I go through this demonstration for you guys. You're going to be able to see how certain parts of the truck will continue to repeat itself. So here you have two parts on the right column over here where it says you can't be seen. If you take this study guide along with the video that Dave did, you should be able to follow it. Another point that I want you guys to not get frustrated with or you know, hurt your brain with in any kind of way is the fact that they may not be in order. When you're watching how Dave is going through his pre-trip inspection guide for you on the video and how it's written here. And another thing before I finish and get through deeper into this, this is what Miss D calls your script. So pretend like you're actually going to do an acting career or you're trying to get a part for a role. This is your script. The video that Dave created and the one that I have been sharing, that's a tool to help you. But this is the script that you want to go by. That's what we were told. That's what we're holding on to. I promise you, you will be saying this stuff in your sleep. It will literally wake you up out of your sleep. So here we go. The two things on the side that cannot be seen on the truck, you will see Dave point this out. It's your gear-driven power steering pump and your gear-driven air compressor. You pretty much have to just point in the direction of where it is. You will see him do this in the video, and I made a note of that for me. Okay, what she provided us, Miss D, with was the fact that you have spring hangers or mounts, leaf springs, U-bolts, shock absorbers. That's always going to be, or in certain parts of the truck, let me correct that, not always, but those are going to be your main components of your suspension system. Your main components of your suspension system. In another part of the truck, you will find that U-bolts will not be there, but we're going to see that as we continue to go on. And here's the next one. All right, this is page 2. You will see that I have listed here the brake system. brake hose or line. That means that you can say either one of those things. You can call it a brake hose or you can call it a brake line. But those things that are underneath, that's what you have to say. Properly mounted and secured at both ends. And I'm overemphasizing at both ends because as you begin to learn the truck, you got to understand that it's not just connected on one side, it's connected at both ends. And you would have seen that on the first part dealing with the engine compartment as well. You have a brake chamber. Those are the things that you're going to say. Now, right under brake chamber where you see the word air in parentheses, that's where we were told you don't have to say it, but you probably should say it. And I hope I'm getting that correct. If I remember her saying that, that's why it's in parentheses. But just to be on the safe side, it's a brake chamber. All right, you're talking about your brakes. I would just say not leaking air. Just to be on the safe side. You're not going to get any points off if you do say it. So just to be safe, if I were you, I would just say, and they're not leaking air. Same, you have the slack adjuster and push rod. That's not an either or. You have to say slack adjuster and push rod, and then you say the things that are listed underneath there. You have your brake drum and your brake lining. Now this bold print where it says friction material is not worn dangerously thin, you have to say that. So after you say your brake lining and you point to it, you have to go ahead and say friction material is not worn dangerously thin. Over here where you see the tire, or when they get ready to talk about the steer tire, because there are different tires on a truck. So your steer tires are those tires that are in the front of the truck, and then you have what they call the drive tires, and then you have your trailer tires, or the ones that are further back. I did hear someone say the tandem tires. Those are the ones that's closest toward the very rear end of the trailer. So you want to make sure that when you're talking about the tire, you will hear Dave just call it a tire. But it's very important that you know what type of tire you have, because you don't want to put, if a tire blows out, you don't want them to put a drive tire, which is further back on your tractor part of the truck, not the trailer, but the tractor part of the truck is where your drive tire is. But you wouldn't want them to put a drive tire where your steer tire or your front tires are supposed to be. That's going to cause problems. So you will learn that later on, but for the test purposes, you can go ahead and say steer tire, and again, you will hear Dave just call it a tire. I added the not leaking part because it was specified with Miss D to go ahead and say it's not leaking. Why? Well, it's a tire that has air. It's not going to hurt you to say or to add at the end of everything else that you say that it's not leaking. Do you have to specify air? You don't have to, but it's not going to hurt you to say it's not leaking air, because that's what it's filled with. Okay. Axle seal or hub seal. I actually spoke to Dave, the one who created the actual video today in our training class. Can we say either or? Does it matter, or is it specified? Well, he said it depends. However, the very first tire that he comes to in the video, you will hear him call it a hub seal. And then when he gets to the drive tire, he's going to call that an axle seal. And you will see as I move forward in this presentation, you will see where it's going to say that there are no missing mounting bolts on that actual axle seal. That's because it has an actual axle seal, or an axle that goes in between it. That's what he told me today. So for this one, you don't see that there because we're talking about that steer tire, okay, the one that's in the front. Hope I'm not confusing anybody. Please ask questions, but we're going to continue. Here we have our driver's door fuel area. As you can see, you have everything that's over here on the left column: mirrors, door and hinges, fuel tank, exhaust system. And I wrote right there on the side at both ends, because when you get ready to talk about the exhaust system and you see where he points to it in the video, properly mounted and secured at both ends. And then you continue with everything else. You also have the drive shaft. It's properly mounted and secured. I actually added at both ends for me, but again, you're gonna get all of the tips and different things in your notes, and you can make the notes however you want to, but you're gonna also get this when you come. So getting a jump start on this stuff, just try to take what you see as your script and get that down. As I continue, you have the catwalk and steps, frame, and cross members. And again, looking over here to the right column, you see where the suspension system is here again. You have spring hangers or mounts. Spring arm now, not a leaf spring this time. It's a spring arm in this area. U-bolt, shock absorber, and now an airbag has been added in this particular suspension area because this is the part of the truck where we are. Again, follow along with this in the video. It'll make a lot more sense. Now, the difference between the leaf spring and a spring arm, in the video, you do hear Dave call the in the engine compartment portion, he calls it a spring arm, but it's a leaf spring because you can see two different metal pieces that are sitting on top of each other. So technically it's a leaf spring, and the one that you get ready to see him talk about that in the driver's door fuel area is a spring arm. So again, remember the video is a tool, but it's very helpful to help point out the parts to you and help you to really put it together. And when you get here to Missouri, it will become even that much more clearer. And then as we continue to move on, you have the brake system. Once again, you see the brake hose or line. You can say brake hose or brake line. And then you see the brake chamber. And as we continue to the next page, which is page 4, you have again slack adjuster and push rod, brake drum, brake lining, and as you see in bold, friction material is not worn dangerously thin. It's there. So here is where I made the actual I put an asterisk there for the axle seal. As you can see now, you don't get to say axle seal or hub seal. That actual seal that's on this particular tire in the driver's side door fuel area is called an axle seal. And as you can see, it specifies that there are no missing bolts. But everything else that was there, the properly mounted and secured, not cracked, bent, or broken, not leaking, filled to the manufacturer specification, that is the same thing that you're going to say at each one of those tires on that seal portion, whether it's the hub seal or the axle seal. But the only thing that is added here is the no missing bolts part for the axle seal portion. And then it continues. On the right side, you have lug nuts, rim, tires, mud flap is now added there. And if you saw previously, anytime you got ready to talk about a tire, you're gonna see you got to talk about the lug nuts, the rim. Okay, those are the same things that you're going to repeatedly see each time you get to a section of the trailer or the truck and there's a tire that's there and you have to mention it. Again, I suggest following the video. Trailer. When you get to the trailer section, those of us who are in the reefer division, we were told that portion is the bulkhead. It's not a header board, but it is the bulkhead that you're going to be talking about, and you will see Dave go through this just as it is. You will see him go through the landing gear, and he will say, if you see where I've written here in the cradle, he's going to say that the crank handle is secure in the cradle. So there is where it is written because it wasn't typed on here. So we've just been adding the information as to what needs to be here and what needs to be said when it's time for the test. Then as you continue, frame and cross members, frame and tandem, release. And here we have again the suspension system. But remember I told you earlier on in the video, there were no U-bolts in this part of the trailer section part of the inspection. Okay, but you still have spring hanger or mounts That means you can say spring hangers or spring mounts. You have the spring arm. Remember, it's not a leaf spring back here now. It's a spring arm. Unless you actually get a truck, because I will say when I was on the pad, there was a truck that had a leaf springs in the trailer portion of the truck. So it all depends on what it is that you are viewing and what you can identify. It's not just learning this to pass a test, guys. You got to learn this in order to know what exactly you are looking at. Because once you're on that road by yourself and there's a break or something goes on in any of these systems or areas of your truck, you have to give a detailed account as to what is damaged or what is broken based on what you know, not based on what you only studied to pass a test. So remember, I told you the leaf springs, they kind of sit one on top of each other, and then wherever you may see or hear him say spring arm, it's like one section or a metal piece that's there. Again, more of it will come together when you get here and you can actually lay your eyes and touch the parts for yourself. And as we continue, excuse me, there's a shock absorber, and then there's another airbag. Again, we have our brake system. Once again, brake hose or line. Brake line. You have the brake chamber. You have the slack adjuster and push rod. You have the brake drum, the brake lining. And here we go on the trailer section. You will hear Dave call this an actual wheel seal. He doesn't call it an axle seal or hub seal. He calls it a wheel seal. I didn't mark it off. I didn't write over this because we weren't told to do that in training, but I'm just kind of pointing some things out to you guys so that you can get an understanding and an idea as to what it is that you need to learn and how well you need to do it. All right. Then you continue. You have lug nuts, the rim. Page 6. Spacing. I underlined this portion for the spacing section because it says this is only if your trailer is equipped with dual tires. So that means if you have a trailer and it has 2 tires that are close side by side, 2 tires that are right behind that, then 2, so you have 2 tires side by side behind that, and on the other sides, that's the spacing that you're looking for. Okay, you have some trailers that may have 2 tires or dual tires that are right next to each other, and some of the trailers just have a regular single tandem tire or trailer tire. But this is what it tells you to do. You have to check to see that there is proper space between the tires and that there's nothing stuck between the tires. And it says, it has a note there, if your trailer has wide base tires, this doesn't apply. So again, if you just have one single tire, it's wide base tire, and there aren't dual tires there, you don't even have to do the spacing inspection portion. But you still gotta do your tire. So as you can see, again, no abrasions, bulges, or cuts to the thread or sidewalls, the tread depth of no less than 2/32 of an inch, properly filled to the manufacturer's specifications, checked with an air gauge, and I would add, not leaking air. That's just me, because that's what it's filled with. You can talk to your trainer and do however you see fit or however you feel comfortable. And again, at the trailer, on that back tire, or the back part of those dual tires, if you end up with a trailer with 2 tires, you're going to have a mud flat. That is still a part of that trailer, so you need to mention the mud flat. And of course, that's what it tells you, properly mounted and secured, not cracked, bent, or broken. You have the rear doors and hinges. So of course, that's the trailer portion of your truck. You got to talk about the rear doors and hinges, and you say exactly what is there. And here they have a note for us, for those who will either be going into flatbed. They may have signed up for flatbed and not reefer. This is what they're supposed to say regarding the flatbeds, the straps, and the winches. That's your script. for what you need to say with that. Page 7, coupling area. So as you see at the top of this is what we were told to make some asterisks or stars and, point it out that on the day of your testing, you may not even have to do a full truck inspection. The evaluator may come up to you and say, hey, it's your lucky day. You get to do a partial pre-trip. But these are the components and the sections or the areas that you must do if that is the case. If you're able to get a partial pre-trip, it will start with the coupling area. So that means your engine compartment, the driver's side door fuel area, and the trailer portion will not be a part of the pre-trip inspection. That's if you get lucky, and that means you only have to learn all of this. But rule of thumb, like I said, it's not going to hurt you to learn all of it, and you will. Do not be overcome by the material. Just study and practice, and you will have time to study and practice when you get here. I promise you that. So with the coupling area, you start with your electric lines. Again, I always go back, follow the video so you can see this and read this stuff along as you go along with it. You have your air lines, your glad hands, the apron, the gap, the skid plate, kingpin, right side or the column on the right, locking jaws, release arm, and safety latch. That's not an either or, which means you have to say all of it and know what it looks like and point to all of these things. The platform, the mounting bolts, the sliding fifth wheel, locking pin, and airline. And as you can see, it tells you everything that you need to talk about when it comes to the sliding fifth wheel and the locking pin. And then right where it's kind of bold, right where it says airline, that's what you need to say about the airline. So also think about these things as you continue to talk about things that are lines or have something to do with rubber. Those things are not, there are no abrasions, bulges, or cuts to those types of things. All right. The only difference with that and the other things that are not cracked, bent, or broken, that means it's anything that is plastic or metal. Do you have to say that? And or when you're talking about the metal parts that have hoses attached to it, now you got to say it all. First, you talk about that, like your belt-driven alternator. That's in the engine compartment. The belt-driven alternator, it's not cracked, bent, or broken. It's properly mounted and secured. And the hoses themselves, right, are fully connected at both ends, or the actual general driver side hoses, the hoses that are on that side and the passenger side, you're saying that there are no abrasions, bulges, or cuts, and they're not leaking. The belts, however, that's on that alternator, you say that they're not cracked or frayed, and then you talk about the free play. I'm kind of going all around the place. I apologize for that, but I just want you to kind of find yourself understanding that rubber, hoses, no abrasions, bulges, or cuts, metals and plastics, not cracked, bent, or broken. Belts or anything that's rubber, not cracked, worn, dry rotted, torn. So that also goes for your door seals, all of that good stuff. So try to think along those things as tips as well. So let's finish with this though. Clearance. The last part of your coupling section, it doesn't even involve your brake system, your suspension system. It's all about coupling, but this is where you want to make sure that, for me, I have to make mental notes. That's the last thing that I got to talk about, that mud flap that's there. But it's not just the mud flap, it's a part of the mud flap and something that's on the trailer part, which is the landing gear. You got to make sure that there's proper space in between those two items on turns so that they don't hit each other. You see how I worded that? I worded it to where I could understand. But I didn't say exactly what the script says. Make sure that there is proper space between the tractor mud flap and the trailer landing gear so that they don't hit each other when making turns. That's what the script says. But the way I said it, I didn't miss any points. So yes, somebody asked about, do you have to learn it word for word? It's good to do that, but it's also good to make sure that however you can understand it, just make sure that you're not missing pieces or parts of what's very vital and important, so that the evaluator knows that you know what you're talking about and you understand. All right. Here's another portion or section that is a part of the partial pre-trip, your light inspection. Again, you're following along with the script. Dave does this very well. Nothing is missing in this area. Your in-cab inspection. As you can see, Dave does this very well. Also, the only thing that was not mentioned in the video that must be talked about during your pre-trip is the windshield wipers and washers. So in your in-cab inspection, you literally have to push the washer button on, spray the windshield to show that the water is actually coming out, and you have to say that the wipers are properly mounted and secured and they are operating smoothly, and that the blades are not cracked or dry rotted. Okay, so you got to say those things. You're demonstrating that your truck is able to work properly and do what it needs to do. Because again, if they're messed up or if it's raining or snowing and your wipers are not working, or they're not properly secured or they're not mounted right, that is a hazard. So again, that was not mentioned in the video. Just make sure that you are doing those things. And again, you will have plenty of practice to do that when you get here to Missouri. And the very last thing to do here is the part of your air brake test. There's 3 stages. As you can see, there's a lot of stuff over here. There's a note there. You should have your tires chalked before you start your vehicle inspection. And although that's at the very end of this study guide, if you watch the video, you will see that Dave chalks his tires in the very beginning. So that's what I suggested that I was going to do until I was told that the evaluator will probably already have the tires chalked. The hood will already be open for you and the deer guard pulled down. Again, that's what I was told. Things may change by the time you get out here, but just keep in mind, if you saw him do it and you get to one and it's not that way, then you have to do it yourself. All right. So the note that I wanted to make right here is right after you see Dave do the stage 1, 2, and 3 of the air brake test, you see him tell the examiner after he cranks it back up so that the air pressure could rise back up to the governor cutout, he gets out and he removes his wheel chocks because now he's getting ready to do the parking brake check. So this was a note for myself. All right, that was a little something that I wanted to make sure that I remember to do these things in these motions before I do the parking brake check and my service brake check. So I hope that this was able to help you guys. You're able to have the actual information, the script that we've been using. I'm sorry I couldn't find the actual link to print this out for you guys, or to tell you where to go to print it out so you can have a copy in your hand. But this was what I figured I could come up with and kind of talk through it. Again, if you have any questions or comments, concerns, please ask away. I will do my best to help answer those questions. I hope that this has been very helpful and beneficial to those of you who were kind of concerned about learning this. Repetition, like I told one commenter, is key. Read the script, study it, Even if you just take one page at a time or one section at a time, the engine compartment, and learn it like the back of your hand first before you move on to something else. Rewatch that part of the video. Put the video on mute, and as you watch Dave point at certain objects or materials on the truck, see if you can name it correctly, and then go back and try to listen to it with the sound to see if you got it right. I promise you, you will get this, because you will probably get tired of doing your pre-trip inspection after you get to Springfield or any of the other locations, because they're going to make sure that you get this down pat once you get here. Good luck to you guys. Thank you for subscribing. Thank you for your comments. Continue to like, continue to share. You guys be blessed. Peace.